Part 1. Forgotten Cities and Impossible Structures. The world they left behind still haunts our own. The wind howled across the barren plains of southeastern Turkey, carrying with it the weight of millennia. This land was dry, cracked, and sun-bleached, and yet it pulsed with something unseen, something ancient. Beneath the dust and silence, beneath layers of forgotten time, lay a secret buried not just in earth, but in denial, a monument no one expected, a site that shattered everything we thought we knew about human history. Its name? Göbekli Tepe. Not just old, impossible. The temple that shouldn't exist, discovered in the late 20th century by accident, farmers plowing the ground, hitting stones too massive to explain. Göbekli Tepe is not just older than the Egyptian pyramids, not just older than Stonehenge. It dates back 12,500 years, from a time when, according to every textbook on Earth, humans were still chasing mammoths and berries. Yet here stood towering T-shaped pillars, some over 20 feet tall, weighing between 10 to 20 tons each. But these weren't crude stone stacks. They were engineered, carved with meticulous detail, aligned in circular formations, and adorned with mysterious imagery. Foxes, snakes, lions, vultures, and strange humanoid forms with exaggerated limbs and fingers pressed against their torsos. These were not cave dwellers. These were architects. But how? How could primitive hunter-gatherers, without agriculture, without the wheel, without copper or bronze, build something so complex? It wasn't just the architecture, it was what it meant. Göbekli Tepe flipped our entire timeline upside down, because before cities, before farming, there was faith, there was planning, there was something more. The most eerie mystery. Why was it buried? Perhaps the most haunting detail about Göbekli Tepe isn't how it was built, it's how it was hidden. The entire site was intentionally buried, filled in with tons of earth and rubble by the very people who built it. Not by erosion, not by time, on purpose. But why? Why would a civilization go to such effort to create something divine, only to seal it away like a tomb? Were they protecting it? Were they hiding it? Or were they afraid of it? No one knows. But whatever their reason, the message was clear. They didn't want it to be found. And for over 12,000 years, it wasn't. The hidden world beneath Cappadocia, Derinkuyu 600 miles to the west, under the windswept plains of Cappadocia, Turkey hides another secret, a much darker one. In 1963, a man was renovating his home, knocking down a wall when the plaster gave way. Behind it, a narrow tunnel. He followed it and stumbled upon a forgotten doorway to an underground city, Derinkuyu. Layer upon layer, deeper and deeper, the city stretched, over 200 feet beneath the earth. 18 levels, chambers, staircases, rolling stone doors the size of minivans, enough space to house 20,000 people, and everything they needed to survive. Kitchens, living quarters, storage rooms, chapels, schools, wells, ventilation shafts that still function today. It was more than shelter. It was a civilization carved into the bones of the earth. But here's what no one can explain. Who built it? How did they carve it out? Without modern tools, machinery, or lighting? And most importantly, why? A fortress against the surface. Some archaeologists suggest Derinkuyu was a refuge, a place to hide from raiders, war, or natural disasters. But others, looking deeper, point to something more chilling. The rolling stone doors were designed to seal off entire levels. Air vents allowed survival for months. The water supply was hidden, untouchable from above. This wasn't just a bunker. It was an ark, designed not just to hide, but to survive. But survive what? A plague, a flood, an invasion, or perhaps something not entirely human. Legends in the region speak of flying beings, of giants, of terrible wars in the skies. Could Derinkuyu have been built to escape something above the earth? Across the ocean, a forgotten city of the gods thousands of miles away in central Mexico, another mystery brews. Teotihuacan. Long before the Aztecs, before even the Mayans, someone built a city there. But not just any city. A megalopolis of precise design, complete with avenues, canals, and pyramids aligned with the stars. At its heart lies the Pyramid of the Sun, nearly identical in base size to the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was home to over 200,000 people at its height. But here's the strangest part. We don't know who built it. By the time the Aztecs arrived, it was already abandoned. They named it Teotihuacan, the place where gods touched the earth. But why was it abandoned? Why are some of its tunnels sealed in obsidian and mica, a mineral known for conducting heat and electricity? Why is the layout a scaled map of the solar system? Why did its builders leave, and where did they go? No bones, no burial grounds, only mystery. The broken code of Puma Punku now. We ascend. Nearly 13,000 feet above sea level, in the Bolivian Andes, lies one of the strangest sights on Earth. Puma Punku. A shattered temple of cyclopean stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons. But it's the way they were cut that baffles modern engineers. Machine-like precision, 90-degree internal corners, perfect smoothness, stone surfaces that show signs of high-speed rotary cutting. And yet, the only tools available at the time? Copper chisels? Hammerstones? Even with today's tech, we'd struggle to recreate what's there. So, how? Some suggest lost technology. Others say this wasn't built by humans at all. And the site wasn't just abandoned. It was torn apart, as if something erased it in a moment. Like Derinkuyu, like Göbekli Tepe. Puma Punku feels like a monument that was intentionally ruined. Its pieces scattered, like a puzzle no one was meant to solve. A pattern in the dust. Across continents, across oceans, across cultures, long vanished from the earth. A pattern emerges. Massive architectural feats, advanced understanding of engineering, celestial alignment, and sudden disappearance. None of it fits the timeline. These cultures weren't supposed to communicate. They weren't supposed to have the tools. And yet, they did. The questions no one wants to ask. So what does it mean? Who taught them? Did humans figure it all out, then forget? Did a lost civilization pass on its knowledge, only to vanish? Or did someone else help? Some say the stars hold the answer. Others say it lies in the myths of sky gods, of watchers, of beings who came before the flood. Whatever the truth is, it's older than we imagined, and more uncomfortable than most are willing to admit. What comes next? Because these cities, these impossible structures, are not the story. They're the prologue. The real mystery? What or who guided our ancestors? What power was lost or hidden? And why is it only now being uncovered? Coming up in Part 2, we delve into the forbidden. The Anunnaki, the Nephilim, the Watchers. Ancient genetic manipulation, sky chariots, and flying cities. Knowledge we were never meant to rediscover, because the myths aren't just stories. They may be memories encoded in legend, buried in stone, and they're starting to wake up. Part 2. Gods, Genetics, and Forbidden Knowledge. In every corner of the ancient world, civilizations whispered similar names. The Anunnaki of Mesopotamia, the Nephilim of biblical lore, the Watchers of the Book of Enoch, the sky gods of Egypt, Sumer, India, and Mesoamerica. Different cultures, different languages. Yet, the same story echoes again and again. They all speak of beings not of this earth, descenders from the sky, teachers of civilization, bringers of knowledge, and sometimes punishers of mankind. Could this be coincidence? Or are these myths fragments of something we've long forgotten? Echoes from the sky. In the cradle of civilization, ancient Mesopotamia, the Sumerians left behind clay tablets that changed everything. On these tablets, they inscribed detailed stories of the Anunnaki, a race of powerful beings said to have come from a planet beyond Earth. They taught humans agriculture, architecture, and mathematics. They ruled over regions, appointed kings, and, according to some translations, created humans as a hybrid species to serve them. They weren't gods in the divine sense. They were rulers, geneticists, engineers. But the Sumerians weren't alone. The Book of Enoch, Forbidden Scriptures. In texts once banned from the biblical canon, the Book of Enoch reveals another layer. Here, the Watchers, heavenly beings, descend to earth and take human wives. The result? The Nephilim, giants, part human, part something else. These hybrids were said to possess forbidden knowledge. They taught humanity metallurgy, weapon-making, astrology, enchantments. Knowledge that, according to legend, led to the corruption of mankind and a great flood to cleanse it. What if these stories weren't symbolic, but historical? What if there really was a time when knowledge was too dangerous to be allowed to survive? Clues in Stone and Stars. Thousands of miles away, in Mali, West Africa, lives the Dogon tribe. For centuries, they have passed down an oral tradition describing a star system known as Sirius B, a white dwarf invisible to the naked eye, and only confirmed by modern astronomers in the 20th century. How did they know? Their legends say they were visited by Nomo, beings from the stars who came to Earth in a spinning vessel of fire and water. A coincidence? Or a faint memory of extraterrestrial contact? The Vimanas of ancient India. In Sanskrit epics like the Mahabharata and Ramayana, strange crafts traverse the skies. Vimanas. Described in vivid detail, these machines flew with the power of Mercury, made thunderous noises, could cloak themselves, and moved in any direction. Technology far beyond what should have been known. More chilling are the descriptions of weapons of light, capable of destroying entire cities and turning the ground to glass. To this day, patches of land in Rajasthan, India, show elevated radiation levels. In Mohenjo-Daro, skeletons lie as if frozen in time, hands covering eyes, as though shielding themselves from a sudden blinding light. Were these just epics? Or were the ancient Indian texts documenting a war, one fought with technology we no longer understand? The DNA puzzle. Now consider this. Why does human evolution show a sudden leap 200,000 years ago? From primitive hominids, we suddenly became tool makers, artists, astronomers. Our brains expanded rapidly. We mastered fire, language, and eventually, civilization. Geneticists still debate this mysterious great leap forward. Some, like Dr. Francis Crick, co-discoverer of the DNA double helix, have proposed that life on Earth may have been seeded deliberately. A theory called directed panspermia, not random evolution, but design. What if the stories of the Anunnaki and the Watchers aren't myths, but garbled accounts of our own genetic manipulation? What if the gods were geneticists, and we, their experiment? Forbidden knowledge and the price of memory. In almost every ancient tradition, there is a moment of punishment. The Tower of Babel. Humans attempt to ascend, are scattered and confused. Prometheus steals fire, knowledge, and is chained for eternity. Atlantis, a civilization too advanced, too arrogant, swallowed by the sea. Why do our stories warn us against knowing too much? What knowledge was taken from us? And why? Some researchers believe there once existed a global system of knowledge, shared among civilizations that predated ours. When it was lost, those who remembered became priests, oracles, or prophets. They preserved fragments in symbols, architecture, and sacred texts, but they always warned, some truths are too dangerous. Fragments of a forgotten past. Take a look at the Nazca lines in Peru, massive geoglyphs only visible from the sky, or the Baghdad Battery, an object resembling a galvanic cell 2,000 years before electricity was officially discovered. Across ancient Chinese texts, Egyptian scrolls, and Central American codices, we find references to flying vehicles, star maps, surgical tools, even cloning-like processes, too many cultures, too many similarities. And all pointing to one central idea: there was a time when mankind knew more than it does now, and someone, or something, decided we weren't ready for it. The quiet silence in modern science today, when archaeologists or historians uncover anomalies, they're often dismissed as ritualistic or symbolic. But is that the full story? Or are we afraid of what the truth might imply? What if the temples, the texts, the artifacts aren't metaphors? What if they're warnings? And more importantly, what if the next piece of that lost knowledge is about to surface again? Coming up in Part 3, ancient machines, hybrid beings, and scientific clues that point to a forgotten technology older than time. From the Djed Pillar of Egypt to the rediscovery of orichalcum, the Atlantis metal, we're just getting started. Part 3, Technology Before Time and Echoes of Atlantis. What if history isn't linear? What if it's cyclical? A rising wave of knowledge, followed by silence, a golden age, followed by ruin, forgotten, buried, erased by time itself. And what if the stories we now call myths were never stories at all, but fractured memories, passed down in symbols, in rituals, and in stone? In the first 2 chapters, we uncovered ruins older than time itself, cities carved beneath the earth, and legends too similar across continents to be coincidence. Now, we step into the shadows left behind, the silence after the storm, and ask, what kind of technology did they possess, and why? Does it always disappear? The Great Reset. Some cultures speak of a time before time. In Hindu cosmology, it's called the Yugas, vast cycles of creation, growth, and destruction. The Mayan calendar also speaks of eras, epochs reset after cataclysmic endings. The Greeks told of a golden age lost in flood and fire. Even the Bible echoes this with the story of Noah's flood, a civilization wiped clean, starting over from nothing. Why do so many ancient stories begin after something ended? Could it be that we are not living at the beginning of history? But in the aftermath? The curious case of the first wheel. We often credit the wheel as the most groundbreaking invention in human history. But what if we got the story wrong? The first wheel, as historians agree, wasn't used for carts. It wasn't for transport. It was used for pottery. And for centuries, it stayed that way, spinning clay, not wagons. Why the delay? Why didn't humans immediately apply the wheel to move heavy loads or build machines? It's as if we rediscovered a tool whose full potential had already been forgotten. As if we were learning to use a relic, without understanding what it was truly made for. Some researchers believe this points to selective memory, technological fragments inherited from a time before memory itself, a whisper of a world lost. The Djed pillar, sacred symbol or ancient technology. In temple after temple across Egypt, we find the Djed pillar. Egyptologists call it a symbol of stability, but others see something far more advanced. Its shape resembles a modern-day electrical insulator. Its repeated appearance near representations of gods and power has sparked speculation. Could the Djed have been a component of a forgotten energy system? Inside the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, carvings show what looks eerily like a light bulb, with snakes acting as filaments inside glass-shaped enclosures, connected by what seem to be wires, held by figures linked to the Djed. Mainstream science dismisses it as symbolic. But is it? And if not, where did the knowledge come from? And where did it go? Vimanas, Rakshasas, and the genetic puzzle. In the great Indian epic, the Ramayana, the gods don't simply appear. They interact, they battle, they command armies of strange beings. The Vanara, ape-like yet articulate. The Rakshasa, powerful, shape-shifting, often monstrous in form. For millennia, they've been considered mythical. But what if they were engineered? In a world where genetic editing is now real, CRISPR, cloning, synthetic DNA, should we reconsider the possibility that these creatures were hybrids? Beings created in ancient labs, under the command of advanced beings, gods or otherwise. Their descriptions are biologically consistent, structured, and recurring, not the messy, ever-changing features you'd expect from fiction. Were the wars of the gods in epics like the Ramayana or Mahabharata not spiritual allegories, but genetic conflicts? Were these early experiments that ended in disaster? Ancient plagues sealed tombs. In 1338, archaeologists unearthed a mass grave in Lake Issyk-Kul, Kyrgyzstan, victims of a sudden and unexplained epidemic. Genetic sequencing revealed a chilling truth. This strain of Yersinia pestis would later ignite the Black Death, nearly erasing a third of Europe's population. But how did it begin? And why here, centuries before it appeared elsewhere? What if this wasn't a natural outbreak, but a trigger? A forgotten chamber opened, an ancient virus released, knowledge buried because it was too dangerous to remember. Could this be why so many tombs, vaults, and ruins were sealed with such obsession? To contain something? To prevent us from repeating what they had already lived through? Stones that shouldn't exist across the globe lie structures no civilization should have been able to build. At Sacsayhuaman, stones the size of trucks are fitted together so precisely that not even a blade of grass can slide between them. In Baalbek, Lebanon, a single stone block weighs over 1,000 tons. No modern crane could move it today. In Nan Madol, an island city built on coral reef, thousands of basalt columns were transported and stacked, with no known tools. How? Some propose acoustic levitation, others long-lost machines. But the evidence is clear. We don't know, and the deeper the mystery, the older it seems to be. Orichalcum, a metal from a lost world. Plato's Atlantis was dismissed as metaphor for centuries. But in 2015, off the coast of Gela, Sicily, divers found a shipwreck buried in the sea. Inside were dozens of metal ingots, reddish gold, unlike any known alloy. Analysis showed high concentrations of zinc, copper, charcoal, and rare elements, a close match to orichalcum, the fabled metal of Atlantis. The question is no longer whether orichalcum existed. The question is, who made it? And how? A message we keep ignoring? Maybe ancient technology wasn't just practical. Maybe it was symbolic. A warning. A message encoded into architecture, myths, and metal, meant to be rediscovered at the right time. A time like now, when we begin to decode genetics, harness nuclear energy, send probes into space, when we begin to remember. The world beneath our feet. Despite satellite technology and ground-penetrating radar, most of Earth's history remains hidden. 90% of the ocean floor remains unmapped. More than 50,000 undiscovered sites are estimated to lie beneath forest canopies, deserts, and glaciers. Entire civilizations may be frozen in permafrost, drowned in sunken valleys, or buried under volcanic ash. What happens when the ice melts? When the forest recedes? When the machines dig deeper? What will we find? A forgotten library? A machine older than the pyramids? Or something that was never meant to be found? Maxikum. The final warning. All around us, the past is speaking. In stones, in stories, in science. It tells us we are not the first. Others have walked this road. They too unlocked power. They too asked questions they weren't ready to answer. And when they fell, they left behind riddles and ruins, so that maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't repeat their mistakes. But are we listening? This was Nexora. The world is older and stranger than we were ever taught. If this story awakened questions in your mind, subscribe, share this mystery, and join us as we continue to uncover the shadows of forgotten worlds. Because the past isn't gone, it's just buried. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, stay human.